see as you twist the tiles beneath our feet. What do you see?
Hey guys, welcome back to day 8 of 31 days of Halloween. Today, the look we are going for is a zombie Joker, and to start this one off, I just went in with a white pencil and roughly sketched out where I wanted different parts of the face to be. I kind of made this one up as I went along, so you can just sketch out for yourself where you want certain contours to be and different cutouts in the skin. Once I had my rough sketch, I just went over everywhere else with a white water-activated face paint. This stuff is nice because it dries down. You can always do a few more layers if you want a really opaque coverage. I kind of went for a little bit of a rough texture since I didn't want it to be entirely flawless. And then a great thing about it is that when you're done, you can always take a little bit of water on a cotton pad and just remove any areas where you might want to add extra cutouts in the skin. I laid out the teeth here really early on just so I would know where they were going to sit. And for this, I used the exact same water-activated paint, but as you can see, I used it much more opaquely for the teeth and just lined up across my cheek, avoiding the areas where the skin would overlap. On the neck and chest, I also just sketched out the bones that would go down the neck and just across the collarbone as well. Then with a black gel liner, I started going over the eyes, applying it down thickly, and then using a clean, fluffy brush to kind of blend it and smudge it outwards. I wanted that really messy, more Heath Ledger Joker kind of eyes, so I kind of just kept adding it on and blending it out and making it all grungy looking. Remember, of course, when you're done to set the lids with a matte black shadow. That will just help it so it won't move on you or crease throughout the time wearing it. Using a red water-activated face paint, I sketched out the lip area, kind of just painting it on and making a little bit of extra markings going up and down to increase that kind of smudged, messy look. And then I also ran my finger over the lips a little bit to make it even more blended out. Using that same paint, I then started filling in certain areas where I wanted the open sores or wounds to be. All of the marks on this face though are kind of cartoony and animated in feel, so they don't have to be super hyper realistic. And then I used a lime green color to also fill in other areas, since I kind of was just going with the green and red color scheme of the Joker. To outline everything, I used my black water activated paint on a small detail brush and kind of just creating jagged edges around all of the tears in the skin, the wounds, and also along the nose. For the hair, I just slicked back my own with a bit of hairspray and then using temporary hairsprays in a crazy bright lime green color. I first went over my whole head with that, and then I just dusted on a bit of black to make it a little less neon. With a red and green eyeshadow from Sugarpill, I just went over the different wounds areas and added a little bit of extra shading. These are slightly darker than the face paint, so they just kind of start creating a little bit more depth and a bit of a shadow inside the wounds. The easiest thing to do here is kind of just stick the color to the outside and it will make its own little faded effects. And then going back to the black face paint, I just quickly filled in the nose area and added a little bit more grunginess to the eyes since it just wasn't enough going on for me. So I decided to add a little bit more. Because I had left the middle of the teeth alone for so long, I finally went back and filled them in with the black face paint. I also took this time to redefine the teeth by just running my brush through them and marking out the little indents where they would sit along the gums. I find the easiest way to make blunt teeth is to just do that straight line along the bottom of them and then just lightly flick your brush up and down to create the lines between them and make them a bit softer. I also outlined the neck bones and the collarbone and added a few little cracks in between before moving on to a black eyeshadow and really just shading in all the different wounds across the face and chest and neck.
Wizard, what do you see as you twist the tiles beneath?
You want to keep the shading to the outside of the wounds on the very edges. This just better gives the idea as if there was a little bit of a lip to all of these wounds and there was a recess in the skin underneath. You can also take this time to do a little bit of shading along the bones so they're not a perfect white and look like they've taken a little bit of decay in their zombie state. From there, I just wanted to pull up on a lot of the jagged edges of all the wounds with the extra shadow I had on my brush. I found this helped to just make sure the lines weren't too harsh along the edges, give it a little bit more of a fade, and made it a little bit more visually interesting, at least for me. And then speaking of adding things that I just thought were fun, I also went back with the black face paint and added little dotting and extra marks around all the wounds. Don't really know what this is meant to be, kind of like dirt, kind of like extra sores. I don't know, it just seemed to work for me in this design, so I went with it. And then with a bit of a gray eyeshadow, I also just added a little bit more concave areas to the skin that is still showing because the pure white looks a little bit too neat for a zombie. And then my last step was to take the face paint one last time with a stipple sponge and kind of apply that all over and around the face to really add that grungy look to it, the not so pristine white that we have going on, and just finish up the overall look.
Inside of me, inside of me.
The last step, of course, is to throw in my contacts. These are white Manson contacts, and they just kind of brought the whole look together. And that is it for my zombie Joker. Please check out my other videos in this Halloween season if you haven't had the chance to. And I, of course, will see you tomorrow for day 9 of 31 Days of Halloween. Thank you so much, guys.